The yellow slip slapped against the front door like a slap in the face. Angela Morris stood frozen on the concrete landing, one hand clutching a grocery bag, the other holding her daughter's tiny fingers. Her eyes narrowed at the large red letters stamped across the page. Notice to vacate. 30 days. "Mommy, what's that?" her daughter asked. Angela didn't answer right away. Her eyes scanned the paper, heart thudding. It claimed she violated lease terms due to excessive noise, unauthorized guests, and late payments. All lies, every word. She had lived in this Atlanta apartment complex for 5 years, long enough to watch it change from a worn-down, family-heavy block to a gentrified maze of luxury upgrades and rent hikes. But she paid on time, kept to herself, raised her baby girl quietly. This wasn't about noise. This wasn't about guests. This was about pushing her out. She heard the familiar squeak of the front gate and turned. There he was, Bradley Carlisle, the new property manager. Slick suit, toothpick in his mouth. The type who thought courtesy was optional. He saw her and smirked. "Afternoon, Ms. Morris," he said, slow and smug. "Looks like you got the notice." Angela nodded. "I did. I also know none of those violations apply to me." Carlisle shrugged, stepping closer. "Rules are rules, sweetheart. Maybe it's time to start looking elsewhere." Angela stared, her voice cool. "I'll be responding." He chuckled. "You can try, but we got everything covered. Lawyers on retainer, full reports, documentation. This building's going upscale and we're just trimming the edges." His eyes scanned her up and down, the same way he always had, dismissing her without a second thought. Black woman, single mom, worn work heels, no husband, easy target. Angela smiled, just barely. "You sure about that?" Carlisle leaned in, whispering like it was some kind of secret. "Unless you've got a lawyer in your back pocket, you're wasting your time." Angela didn't flinch, didn't raise her voice. She simply stared at him for one long, measured second. "I don't have one in my pocket," she said. "I am the lawyer." She turned the key, opened her door, and stepped inside, leaving Carlisle blinking on the landing like he'd just heard thunder in a quiet room. Inside, Angela dropped the grocery bags on the table, exhaled, and whispered to herself. They picked the wrong woman. The courthouse hallway buzzed with tension and ticking clocks. Angela sat alone on the hard wooden bench, her toddler asleep in the stroller beside her. Her hair was pulled back tight, her gray suit pressed, not flashy. Her heels clicked softly as she stood when the clerk called her name. Angela Morris versus Bradford Carlisle and Halston Properties. Courtroom 4. She pushed the stroller forward, her heart steady. Not angry, not scared, focused. Inside, the courtroom was modest but packed. Mr. Carlisle sat at the plaintiff's table in a fitted navy suit, legs crossed, sipping from a stainless steel thermos. Next to him, his lawyer, Martin Greaves, all slicked-back hair and arrogance, flipped through a thick manila folder like he already had the win in hand. Angela approached the defense table and gently parked the stroller beside her. She placed her file down and looked up at the judge. "Angela Morris, representing myself, Your Honor." Judge Reynolds, a sharp-eyed black woman in her early 50s, peered over her glasses. "Ms. Morris, you're the defendant and counsel?" "Yes, ma'am." Greaves chuckled under his breath, leaning toward Carlisle. "Pro se? This'll be quick." Carlisle smirked. The judge raised an eyebrow at the file in Angela's hand. "Very well. Plaintiff, proceed." Greaves stood, adjusting his cuffs like he was stepping into a photo shoot. "Your Honor, the tenant has repeatedly violated noise ordinances, housed unauthorized guests, and has been reported multiple times by neighboring units." He gestured toward a printed email. "As outlined here, Ms. Morris received multiple warnings." Angela waited, face calm. Greaves smiled toward the gallery. "Given the repeated infractions and risk to community harmony, we are moving for an immediate eviction." The judge turned to Angela. "Response." Angela stood slowly, her fingers steady as she opened her folder. "Your Honor, I'd like to first submit affidavits from 3 neighbors, each confirming that they never filed any complaints. She handed them to the bailiff. "And this," she continued, holding up a packet, "is a maintenance request I submitted 3 weeks ago, still unresolved. You'll notice Carlyle claimed in writing the unit next door was vacant, yet he claims that's where the complaints came from." The judge's eyebrows lifted. Angela stepped forward. "Your Honor, Mr. Carlyle is targeting tenants who fall under pre-renovation leases, like me, in an effort to force them out and raise rent for incoming applicants. I have documentation of 8 similar evictions in the last 90 days. All single mothers. All women of color." Greaves shifted, clearly rattled. Carlyle leaned over. "You didn't say she was a lawyer." "I didn't know," he whispered back. Angela continued. "And for the record, I am a licensed attorney in the state of Georgia. These tactics aren't just unethical. They border on retaliatory housing discrimination." The judge nodded slowly, taking notes. "Proceed, Ms. Morris." And just like that, the power shifted. Angela wasn't the victim anymore. She was the reckoning. The courtroom was silent except for the shuffle of papers and the hum of the ceiling vent. Angela stood tall at the defense table, hands resting on a stack of documents she had meticulously prepared. Her toddler, now awake, sat quietly beside the stroller with a coloring book and snack. Across the aisle, Mr. Carlyle looked pale. His confident posture had vanished. His lawyer, Martin Greaves, kept flipping through his binder like the answer might magically appear. Angela cleared her throat. "Your Honor, I'd like to draw the court's attention to Exhibit D, a timeline of recent evictions within Halston Properties' East Grove complex." She handed a printout to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. "Over the last 3 months," she continued, 9 tenants were given notices similar to mine. 8 were single black mothers. The 9th was an elderly black couple on fixed income. The judge scanned the document, her brow furrowing. Angela pressed forward. "Your Honor, you'll also find Exhibit E emails between Mr. Carlyle and Halston's executive property team. In particular, one dated June 2nd, where Mr. Carlyle writes, quote, 'We're 3 units away from flipping the whole complex. Just need to clean out the holdovers.'" She let the silence sit. Carlyle leaned over to Greaves. "Why didn't we redact that?" Greaves whispered, "You were emailing from your work account." Angela wasn't finished. Exhibit F, a recording, taken on my phone, of a hallway encounter between myself and Mr. Carlyle. She pressed play on a small speaker. The courtroom filled with the tinny sound of Carlyle's voice. "You can stay out here and argue if you want, but by the time this place is done, people like you won't be living in it anyway." A collective gasp rippled across the gallery. Carlyle dropped his head into his hands. Greaves reached for his briefcase, as if trying to disappear behind it. Angela's voice remained calm. "Your Honor, that statement, combined with the false complaints, ignored maintenance requests, and disproportionate evictions, isn't just circumstantial. It's a pattern. It's targeted displacement. It's discrimination." The judge looked up slowly, her eyes locking on Carlyle. "Mr. Carlyle," she said evenly, "do you have anything to say?" He stood, fumbling. I was following company orders. I didn't mean for it to sound that way. That recording is out of context." Angela interjected. "I have the full recording if the court would like to hear the rest." The judge held up a hand. "That won't be necessary." She turned to Greaves. "Counselor, unless you'd like to rebut this with actual evidence, I believe we've heard enough." Greaves stood, defeated. "No further arguments, Your Honor." Angela's hands trembled just slightly as she gathered her documents. The strength it took to stand there, to hold composure through the smirks, the dismissals, the assumptions, it all crystallized in that moment. She hadn't just defended her right to a home. She had exposed a system built to push people like her out. The judge leaned back in her chair, tapping her pen. "Ms. Morris, your motion to dismiss the eviction is granted. Additionally, I am issuing a court order to halt all current evictions at the East Grove complex pending review." Carlyle slumped in his chair. The judge added, "And I'll be referring this matter to the city's Housing Authority and the Georgia Civil Rights Division." Angela exhaled. It was over, but not really. This was only the beginning. As she picked up her daughter and started to leave, a voice rose from the back. It was Mrs. Hill, an older tenant who lived 2 doors down from her. She stood up, eyes wet. "You spoke for all of us, baby. We see you." Angela nodded, lips pressed together to keep from crying. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Justice had spoken. 3 days later, the tone of the entire building had changed. The eviction notices were gone. Tenants who once whispered in fear now gathered in the courtyard, talking openly for the first time in months. Word of Angela's courtroom victory had spread like wildfire. Neighbors who barely spoke before were suddenly knocking on her door, bringing sweet tea, offering babysitting, asking questions like, "Do you think I can fight mine too?" Angela sat on her front steps with her daughter curled up in her lap, watching the kids play. The sun was setting, casting gold across the peeling paint and aging bricks. The same bricks they'd tried to erase her from. A car pulled up in front of the complex. It was Greaves, the lawyer, alone. No smugness, no confidence. He approached slowly, holding an envelope. Angela stood up. "Something I can help you with?" He looked tired. "Just came to inform you. Carlyle's been relieved of his position. Effective immediately." Angela crossed her arms. "Good." Greaves nodded, almost respectfully. "Look, I get paid to fight these cases. But what you did, that was impressive." Angela didn't blink. "It wasn't for you." "No," he admitted. "It wasn't." He handed her the envelope. "Settlement offer. Halston's trying to avoid a larger investigation. They're offering a check and a formal apology." Angela opened it, skimmed it, then handed it back. "Tell them to keep it. I'm filing with the city anyway." Greaves swallowed hard and walked away without another word. That night, Angela sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, filling out the paperwork to start a tenant action group. It was something she'd put off for years, but now the momentum was hers. The fight wasn't just about her home anymore. It was about protecting every family still holding on. She heard little feet patter into the kitchen. "Mommy?" her daughter asked sleepily. "Are we gonna have to move?" Angela turned, scooped her into her lap. "No, baby," she whispered, kissing her forehead. "We're not going anywhere." Outside, porch lights flickered on across the building. Dishes clinked. Laughter echoed faintly. The place didn't look new. It didn't need to. Felt like home again. As Angela closed her laptop for the night, her eyes caught the eviction notice. Still folded, sitting in a drawer. She pulled it out, held it up to the light for a second, then tore it straight down the middle. Her daughter giggled. "Can I do one too?" Angela smiled. "Next time, baby. We'll rip it up together." Because now this was their ground, and they weren't giving it up. Angela stood by her window the next morning, watching sunlight stretch across the parking lot. The same lot where she had once cried, wondering if she'd have to pack up her life and start over. Now, she stood in the same spot with her back straight, chin high, and a fire in her chest that wouldn't fade. She didn't win because she shouted the loudest. She won because she knew the rules of a game built to make her lose, and flipped the board anyway. Too often, people like her are underestimated, labeled as problems, silenced with paperwork and hidden behind bureaucracy. But sometimes, the strongest voices are the quietest ones in the room, the ones who show up prepared, unshaken and unafraid. The system counted on her backing down. It expected her to crumble under pressure, to accept less, to move quietly. Instead, she stood firm. She spoke up. And she reminded everyone watching that dignity doesn't come from income, skin color, or status. It comes from knowing who you are and never letting anyone take that away. Angela didn't just keep her home. She reclaimed her power. And in doing so, she gave everyone else in that building permission to do the same.